Now, we went over it the first time. It gives us a chance to hear and understand the architecture of the music as it plays out. I think it's always good to play all the way through the first time, no matter what happens. Of course, in our instance, we're going to make it through these songs. We know we've been playing them a long time. A lot of times when you play with your band, you can't believe how sad it sounds the first time. It's important to not be discouraged and to pick all the things that are good about what happened and to talk about those good things, and then to get the band used to doing complete performances. So I think it's always good to do two performances. The first, where you play, maybe it's not that good, and then you discuss different things that you heard, and the second where you play, and you give the band the chance to discuss things or to talk about things from their perspective. So this would be our first run through. So I think I would just observe different things. One is the lead of the first trumpet and the third trombone and the baritone saxophone, that the band sets their voicing and sound to those three instruments, and they can hear what the balance is. The other is the nature of the material. Caravan is kind of Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, passing for Caribbean habanera pattern rhythm, upon which sits a melody by Juan Tizol, who was a Puerto Rican trombonist that played with Duke Ellington's orchestra. It's important to understand things about the Afro-Hispanic diaspora and something specific about the groove. It's not just say Latin. One thing is straight eighth note. So make sure that all the eighth notes are lining up. When we listen to the arrangement, we notice that the guitar is always playing on offbeats. Ching, 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 ching. This is almost set to be disastrous and something that will bring the rhythm back. So if you don't have James playing, you got to work with that offbeat rhythm and make sure that the drums and the guitar are in sync. Many times the drums cannot hear the guitar. Another thing is how the piano will comp. In general, pianos are going to comp in the same register as the guitar, kind of medium register, and play on offbeats and obliterate with the guitar part. It's important for the pianist to find longer counter lines or things to play that will not clash with the guitar rhythm. The big bottom on the bass, sometimes they're playing the same parts, the same notes, sometimes not. To get the dum, ding, dum, dum, ding, dum, to get the lift that comes with that half, that on the end of two. Now, one salient feature of this arrangement is the call and response. It's the kind of feeling of a blue light in the distance. It starts with the fourth trumpet, with the fifth trumpet part, 2 or 3 before B. When we reach the minor chord, all of a sudden there's this voice. In this instance, Tatum played the part as written. I tend to never want people to play a written part. I want them to know the part, but make up your own part. When you're making up parts, it's important to understand the function of your part. So if you make up a part that has nothing to do with what the arrangement is, you're not going to improve the arrangement. The thinking always is that improvisation is going to improve what you're playing. It's not possible to improve a thing when you're not interested in what the function of it is. So we're going to hear it again. We'll play it again. He's going to improvise a part. And you'll notice it just has a different energy to it, but a part that will have the same effect of here's something in the distance that we hear. Sound adds to the kind of exotic feeling of it. And we see that theme comes back before let us see. Let's always remember that in 8-bar, 12-bar music, there's always a crisis in the last 2 bars. That is, something is ending and something else is beginning. So we're trying to determine how do we bridge these phrases. If you look at 2 bars before C, the trumpet is coming down, and here comes the trombone. A new voice comes up. Now the saxophones are playing whole notes like they were playing before, but now they're voiced lower. So it's a lower sound, and here's the trombone playing in the upper middle register, singing that melody. Totally different from the sound that we've heard. And let's look at what the piano is doing with the call and response with the trombone. There's little things that are interjections. If you're playing your piano part and you don't know that it's an interjection, write it in your part. So it's important to get your band used to listening to the music. Tell your rhythm section players, go home, listen to this music, and write in what the functions of your part is. When you see a call and response, when you have a riff, when you have breaks, things that are functional to the music, write these things in your part and look at it. That way you can make intelligent decisions. As we go through the arrangement, we notice we go from the trombone, now we have the clarinet. That's the New Orleans front line. We had the trumpet playing the melody at first, went to the trombone solo, and now here comes the clarinet. This is a very tricky solo to play because the clarinet is taking us into an even higher register. So it's important for when the clarinet solos, don't go to a lower register. It's important to go up into the high register because that's the kind of theme that Duke has. And the clarinet generally is up high, and then against that high part is the trombone in the upper middle register with the blue light part. So the clarinet part is active, and the trombone part in answering is just ooh. So you would think, wow, that's open space. Let me fill that in. That space is not there to be filled in. The rhythm section is filling in space. The space gives us a chance to hit a rhythm section, sit in the rhythm, and it gives us a chance to feel the emotion of that lone trombone and the kind of solitary feeling that creates the part of the exotic element of this arrangement. Then, as we go into letter E, we see the clarinet is playing and the trombone does not play. It's a clarinet solo, okay? It can take any shape that a clarinetist wants. In this case, Victor can play up and down as he wants. Now we go from the high instrument, the highest instrument in the saxophone section, to the lowest. The baritone is going to play a solo. With the baritone, it's also a range issue. It's going up and down. He's just playing on the changes. The rhythm section has some interesting things that goes on. The way the Duke decides to come, bling, 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 bling. It's kind of like blinking lights and things that he does. Make sure not to interfere with the guitar when the piano is comping. That Barry solo goes, an interesting feature of that solo that we have to fulfill is a truncated version of the form. We're just going G7, we're just going C7 to F minor, C to F. So we have to know where that F lies. It's not in the same place as it is in the regular 12-bar form. It's worth it to rehearse it a couple of times, go over with the rhythm section. Now, as you go through the form, you want to consolidate it with your band so that they know the kind of basic layout of where things are going. The ensemble plays, the trombone plays, the clarinet solos, the baritone solos. Now, where are we going from the baritone solo? Okay, here comes the ensemble again. So in terms of the rhythm section, no. We're going to do, we start off with the statement of the theme, we go through these episodes, and in the end, we come back, basically the theme the way it was when we first expressed it. Now the trombone is doing this thing. In this case, Vincent, playing all kind of trombone. He's bringing us home. And if you look at the first time we played the melody of Caravan, a trombone does not enter till 4 before B, 3 before B. And that's Chris playing the kind of solitary part. Now on the way out, Vince, with the open trombone, is playing a much more active part. So these are things that Duke does when he recaps material to make sure that the music does not lose interest. Now we're going to do it, now we're going to play it again with all these things in mind. And when we finish playing it, we're going to get Carlos is going to talk something about the rhythm, and some of our different members will say different things that they want to say about it. Okay, there was a lot good in that, I think, for you to hear when we played. Now this time, Victor kept playing. He didn't leave the space for the trombone. Okay, it doesn't, I mean, it could go either way in terms of us playing. It's not, the music is not, we can't be didactic about the way we play our music. It's jazz music. So if Duke Ellington were alive and he was still playing his music, we have so many examples of him playing the same songs 30 and 40 years. They don't play the songs by rote in that way. They just play. The music comes out of life. And for us to maintain the integrity of that tradition, we must also play this music like that and bring our experiences to it. The record is not an unchanging Bible. It's not that type of document. The recording from their own tradition is just a touchstone. It's like Cootie Williams said when he joined Duke's band, he knew all of Bubba Miley's parts and he started to play them, and Duke was like, "You Cootie Williams." So know the music and play. One thing I want to draw your attention to with this performance was how well the band did cutting off the notes. Ryan is playing the lead, whole notes. It's perfect for us to start playing over one or treating the rest as if they are not rhythms. When we first played, the band was exactly together, cutting off with the lead trumpet. We tend to think that the precision ensemble work is only about fast passages or things that are kind of technically involved. It takes more precision to play whole notes and half notes, and to play unison passages together, that takes more ensemble precision. The saxophone section did a great job of playing the background on the clarinet solo. They were cutting off, they were in perfect balance, they were of one mind. If you look at that and you see the concentration Sherman had just on how he would cut off, and if you could just look at him and Ted, I didn't see Camille, I was just looking at the two of them, but everybody played together, but the concentration, the second part had to play with the first. Another important thing is in our music, there's no shame in second, third, and fourth parts. We get chances to play lead. It's very difficult to play a following part with integrity. And a part of having a great band is to take tremendous pride in following that lead and making your lead be as comfortable as possible to phrase the way he or she wants to phrase it and play it. So those are some of the things about the music. One other thing to touch on is just the feeling of the music. The more music you know, Afro-Caribbean music, Afro-Hispanic music, allow Duke Ellington's music to take you and your band into another world of music. Listen to the music, give them listening lists, learn and discover it yourself, because it's never ending, you know. I don't care how many times Carlos has explained Tresillo to me and habanero rhythms. It's been since he was 14 or 15. I still need to learn it. So since we have him in the room to talk about the rhythm section and the groove and the way that we sound and the best practices, ways of approaching it, Carlos is going to speak something about how to get the right vibe on it.
So the challenging part and task of a young rhythm section to play a groove is actually learning how to layer the grooves and parts and understand how they fit together. The one thing a young rhythm section must also understand is that your role has to be very disciplined in order for the groove to work. What I mean by that is, for example, a bass player who plays this chart is going to see a repetitive bass line, which is an ostinato, in letter C, which is a habanero form. Boom, 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 boom. Now, for a young bass player, this might be boring, or it might get to a place where you may want to add more notes to it. Sometimes it's best to play the part simple and understand your function in the rhythm section with the other layers to create the groove. I know it's complicated, but as you get older, you'll start understanding how these functions work and how they make the groove better. What I would practice as a band director with a young rhythm section is I would start with the drum groove, let the rhythm section each understand what the drummer's doing, and then start adding the instruments one by one. I would start with the drums, start with the bass second, add the piano third, and then last the guitar, since he's playing on the upbeats, which can throw the rhythm section off. And just be diligent with the parts. Understand that this style of music can be mistaken for different names. You're gonna see a title that says medium Latin. The only thing Latin in this chart may be the habanero pattern, which is used in many different genres of music that goes back to the early 1900s and maybe before that. So one must study this music, figure it out, understand how the habanero patterns come into effect with early New Orleans music and European music. But as a young rhythm section, I would start in layers and understand each part in order for it to function.
Okay, let's try to see how that works with us layering the rhythm section. We'll start with Paul just playing the drum groove. Okay, now when Carlos comes in, he's playing the same thing the bass drum is playing. Boom, 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 boom.
And I'm at letter D.
Okay, now when Dan comes in, he just spice it. Okay, he's playing both parts. Now he's filling in the drum part. Taka taka kata taka taka ka taka taka ka taka taka. All right. Here comes James on the offbeats. Ta 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 ta.
I think it's important that in the answering part that you have to sing. You have to be willing to really invest a lot in the long notes that you play, whatever you play. And of course, you can. This part is just a guide. What's written here. You should play something within this context, but you don't necessarily have to play what's here. But if you'll see how Lawrence Brown is playing this, you'll see, and if you listen to it, you'll hear how much feeling he puts into the long notes in this, and that's a good guide, a good thing to carry over into whatever it is that you play. Is that you have to sound like a voice a long way away, answering whatever that first thing is that he heard out there. So just keep that in mind. It has to be very human and very vocal.
That's an excellent point. Hoo-dee-doo. You got to get to it's like a kind of smokiness in the sound. It's a thing, and it's many times it's confused for roughness or it's confused for like a huskiness. It's not. That's not. It's an intention, and that intention can be very light. It can be rough, but it's always very personal. Vince was talking about, we all sing in different ways, but when we get to our thing, if we're clowning or we're playing around, we're acting a certain way, we sometimes have more freedom than we have if we're put on the spotlight. The difficult thing about playing this style of music is how can we exhibit that type of freedom while playing in a performance context. And these are all things we work on when we're rehearsing. That way, when the pressure of performance gets on us, we don't have to do anything different. Every time we touch our instruments, we're singing and playing.